Good morning. Actually, it's good afternoon right now. It's a little afternoon. Anyway, it is day 6 post-op for my duodenal switch surgery, where I added the switch to one eye, but the procedure was done on me to add the switch to my already existing sleeve surgery. Uh, what do I have to report today? Things have been going pretty well. Energy has been kind of low, been just recovering like I should. Slept in today until like noon, but then again, I didn't go to bed till almost midnight last night, so I didn't sleep until noon. I slept until 10, sorry. But probably about 10 hours of sleep, just trying to get healed up. My incisions are healing nicely. Um, a couple of the staples even came out yesterday that I didn't, that weren't really holding anything anymore. So overall, I feel good, very little discomfort or pain. No nausea. Uh, my stomach feels good, so it's really tempting to want to eat um, solid foods or something other than broth or protein drinks. But I'm being obedient, being a good patient, so I am eating those things. I guess the craziest thing is the amount of weight that's been coming off. Kind of took what my doctor said, and he said it's going to go slow, and maybe this is just the post surgery bump that you get. But since surgery, and like I said, today is day 6, so 6 days, since 6 days ago, I was 326. This morning, I was at 315.4. So that's almost, 11 or 10 and a half pounds since in 6 days. So that's crazy. I really, thought that I wouldn't hit 315 until probably the 2 week mark, something like that. But it's just so hard to tell. I have been tracking what I've been eating, whether it's been broth or protein drinks or pudding or whatever, and I've only really been averaging 700 or 800 calories a day, which for somebody who's had the full surgery with the stomach, that's a lot. But for me, with my stomach's intact, I haven't felt overly hungry. There are times when I do feel hunger, but mostly I feel fine. Like I said, I'd love to be able to chew something, but I'm just biding my time. Probably what I'm taking most of my time doing right now is figuring out how I'm going to get through the soft food stage, what I plan to eat then. I'm taking very seriously the guide document that my doctor's office gave me, and I'll be preparing meals that are high in protein and are soft on the stomach. And again, I know that they do this more geared towards somebody who's already had the stomach procedure, but I need to let my intestines heal up too. So I'll be obedient and do what they say, but hey, if the weight's going to come off, I think that's one of the things everybody wants to know. I know I wanted to know it when I first had my sleeve surgery, and I see people asking it all the time is how much can you expect to lose, or when can I expect to lose it? Because I think we look out towards events and things in the future. Like I know, for example, my daughter's getting married in 2 months. I would like to look good for the wedding. I'd like to be in, at a decent weight. And I've kind of told myself that if I can get down, below 300, that would be fantastic. Um, the way it's going, I might get there. Who knows? But the hard part is when you set some expectations to be to a certain weight by a certain day and it doesn't happen, and because your body has other plans. So try not to get too caught up in the expectation game. But you kind of look ahead and think, well, I could be there by that day. Anyway, that's kind of what's going on with me right now. I probably didn't do the smartest thing just now. I went out and took a little hike in the foothills above my house, walked about a mile and a half. Some of it was elevation, nothing too technical. I have to say I was pretty huffing and puffing. But I was going stir crazy sitting here in the house watching TV and doing stuff, so I'm like, I need to go do something. So it felt, on the one hand, it did feel good to get out there and get my blood pumping. On the other hand, I'm now very tired. So, but a little bit of exercise is good, and I want to get back to the point where I'm exercising regularly. So, all in all, it was a good thing. I just need to be careful about how hard I go and watch where my heart rate goes. So, anyway, that's pretty much it for today. I'll check in. I won't make these check-ins as often, but we'll start to make them on a fair, semi-regular basis. I really want to get into the food side of things because, everything I see, I did a lot of reading yesterday about keto. I don't know if keto is the right thing for this procedure just because keto is so high in fat, and not that it's bad, but for a person with a duodenal switch, High fat content can cause you gastrointestinal distress, so I don't know that that's necessarily the right thing to do. I'll talk about it with the dietitian when I see her here in a few weeks. But obviously high protein, low carbs. Some of the keto recipes though are good, where you're trying to make different bread-like items, crackers, which I said before I'm an addict to crackers. Try and make those things out of coconut flour, almond flour, those type of things to keep them lower carbohydrate. I think those things would be a good substitute for me, and so I'm going to try and adopt some of those things, become better at cooking, better at meal prepping. I've been looking into, I have some meal prep containers, trying to figure out what it is I can fix for myself that I'm going to be satisfied with. I found a recipe for a low carb tortilla, which would be perfect. So there's just a lot of things like that I really want to get into, that I want to really take it serious this time, and do better. And speaking of taking it serious, so one of the guys that I know that's on one of the boards for the weight loss center in Mexico that I went to, he's local here in my state, and I was kind of put up a post that I'd had this surgery locally, and this dude, switch surgery, and he's like, oh, he goes, well, did you change your diet? And I'm like, yeah, well, my diet sucked. I was back to eating full carbohydrates, and it wasn't my diet wasn't what it was when I was 450, but it wasn't good either. It wasn't what you would call the proper weight loss surgery diet. I was eating too many breads and crackers, and yes, I was having protein, but I just wasn't getting in. I was getting way too many carbohydrates, 200 carbohydrates a day, 200 grams of carbohydrates a day easily. That's not good. So anyway, yeah, he didn't necessarily call me out. He was like, oh, well, I followed the diet, and his stats were basically the same as mine. He started out over 450, and he's now down at 250, which is kind of where I want to be, or lower. And he's like, well, I just followed the diet. It was easy for me because when I did the pre-op and the post-op, I just kept going. I'm like, well, I didn't. I went right back to, I didn't go right back, but I let the other things back in over time, and that's what killed me. And he was able to keep those things out of his life, and it worked for him. So I felt a little bit, not judged, but I have this issue with people who, not so much that have success, but people are like, well, I followed the rules explicitly. Like, well, if I could follow the rules explicitly, then I wouldn't have been fat in the first place. But I have trouble following the food rules. I have issues with food. And so it always amazes me that people who weren't able to follow the rules before, all of a sudden can follow the rules once they get weight loss surgery, and are all, I wouldn't say judgmental. This guy, I don't think was being judgmental. But it's like, well, you just got to follow the rules. Well, okay, jerk, if you could have followed the rules in the first place, why'd you get weight loss surgery? Why didn't you just diet? Because you're apparently very good at following the rules. So anyway, I guess there probably just comes a time when you're like, okay, I have to follow the rules now. And I think weight loss surgery is that way for some people. And a fair number of people, I wouldn't say a lot, but a fair number of people like myself don't follow the rules the first time around and pay for it. They get regain, and that's what happens. Anyway, that's it for today. This has gone on for about 8 minutes, and I don't like to make these things very long. I'll check in again, I don't know when, a few weeks or a couple days, whatever. Later.